So if one platform or one of your lead sources disappeared tomorrow, how much of your revenue would vanish with it? And so here I want to show how to calculate just that. And so it's going to be booked revenue by channel by month, and it's broken down as a percentage. So in other words, for January 25, 5% of your revenue came from leads that came from Angie, right? And then so on and so forth. And so let's get started here. What we're going to do is we're going to create all this, and then we're going to create what's called a stacked column chart. And then I'm going to show with this line is the booked revenue. And so here in this data set, what you have, and this is a pretty in-depth data set. I have multiple HVAC clients, and so I've helped them, create data sets or help them get insights. And so if you want this data set, there's a link to download it or just shoot me an email. But this is going to have a lot of information, and you don't need a lot of it to create this specific chart that I just showed you. You only need 3 columns. You need the date, the lead column, like the date of the lead. So you can do, if you have a timestamp or if you have a regular date, that's fine. And then the channel, and then a revenue column that we have over here. And there's zeros because, deals are lost, so they haven't been closed yet. But this is just the revenue column. And so if you have those 3 columns, you're good to go. You just have to, we have to create 2 more from those existing 3, and really from the existing 1. And so to start, we'll do month here and year here. I'll show you how to recalculate it. We already have it here, but it's going to be equals text, and then go way over here, and you can just choose whichever one. But if you want to do, I'll just do this one. It's not going to matter because we want the month, right? And the month is the same for both of these. So equals text, and then highlight the date column, whichever column you want to use, and then quotations, and then 4 M's. Like this, and then everything autofills, you can see here. And then same thing for the year, text function, but this time instead of the 4 M's, we're going to do 4 Y's. And you can see here that this is now the year is filling down, which is what we want. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to get a unique list of these, and then a unique list of the lead source, and then also sum the revenue. So the way we do that is by using the unique function. So equals unique, and then I'm just going to click here in Y1, where it's month, and then go over to year, and then so start with month, press Control and Shift on your keyboard, then Shift on your keyboard for the right arrow, and then Control Shift down. And then I'm just going to copy this, and then Control Shift V to paste it. Let me just center everything. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to have a date here, because what we want to do is for the chart, we want it to be January-2025. So equals B3 and, so Shift 7 for and then quotations, space, dash, space, quotations, and the year. So we have it just like that, and then you can drag that down or double click, and you're good. So here across the row, what we want is the lead source, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to do equals unique. I'm going to show you 3 functions inside, or 3 functions inside one formula. So equals unique, we know the table name is table leads. Well, you may not know, but now you do. I know the table name is table leads. And then now we want the channel, right? So if we do this, we're good. We have the list. But the problem here, 2 things. 1, I want it to be alphabetical. And then 2, I want it to be sort of transposed across the row. So to put it in alphabetical order, just use the sort function, press enter. And then to put it, instead of in a column, to put it across the row, you can do transpose. And then I'll just close this. And now you have everything you need. And so, again, highlight, Control C, and then Control Shift V. And then I'll just spread these out. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to see for January 25, what % of revenue came from leads that came from Angie. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sum if Angie and January and 2025. So sum if S. And the first argument with SUMIFS is the revenue range. And so you can just, if you click here in the table, you can see table leads revenue USD, comma, and then now we want the channel here to be here. And what I'm going to do, let me move this out of the way, but I'm just going to make it E2. E2, comma, and now we can just fill in like before. So table month is this, table year is this, and now you have that. So $10,000 came from Angie in January 25. And so now we have the numerator of the fraction. Now we need the denominator, right, to get a percentage. So what would the denominator be? Right? So the denominator is going to be this same formula, but what we're going to strip out is the leads, right? Or the channel, right? The where the leads are coming from. Because it's still going to do the revenue based off of the month and based off of the year. So now Control Shift 5, and you can see it's 5%. And so we got that. So that's good. And then now we want to just drag this over and drag this down, but what you're going to see is an error. And the reason is because of the referencing called absolute and relative referencing. This is relative, meaning as you drag it over, it's going to change. So like you can sort of see the purple behind here and the red, but over here you can see how it moves over one. And then this also moves over, but this moving over is actually what we want. But as we drag this down, we don't want this to become 5%. We want it to stay on Angie. And the way we do that is by locking the cells. And what I mean is wherever you want to lock the column, meaning as you drag it over, you don't want things to change. You just have to put a $sign before the column, which is the letter, because letters are the columns in Excel and numbers are the rows. And so do that there, and here. And then for the row, we want to do the $sign in between. So before the row, after the column. So $2. And then now you're still going to see the error, but the reasoning is because now the table name is changing here. And then you can see it's going to gross margin percent. But we just want to copy and then paste. Let's see, I messed up somewhere. Yeah, so let's see, where did I mess up? Right here. So this right here needs to have a $sign before there. So copy, paste, yeah, so that makes sense. And then finally, we just want to have a revenue, if you remember, for that secondary axis, that line. And the revenue is just going to be the denominator, right, of this. We're going to sum the revenue just based off of month and year. So copy that, and then you can paste it, Control Shift 4 to format it as a $, and then it's good. So we have sort of the shell of everything we need. This is the hardest part of everything is knowing how to structure this. And now the chart part is pretty easy. So just highlight everything starting with date, and then go to insert, and then recommended charts. And then I'll walk you through all this. Go to all charts, go to combo. And so it's not what we're wanting it to look like, because what's happening is the line is on a percentage axis. So like it's 5, I don't even know what that is, 2 million percent, 5 million percent. So you're trying to show 1% of Yelp on the same axis that you're trying to show $201,000 of revenue. So it's 0.01 versus 201,000. So what we need to do is have a secondary axis. And so only for the revenue, only for that purple line. So for the other ones, what we want is we want a stacked column. So click the drop down, stacked column. All those are stacked columns, stacked column. And you have to sort of go through every one of them to have a stacked column, except the revenue. So we can see the revenue here line, and then we want a secondary axis. And you can see now everything is making sense. And we'll call this booked revenue by channel percent by month, or booked revenue, yeah, by channel percent by month. That's fine. And it's still, I mean, what do we call it here? Booked revenue by channel. Okay, booked revenue by channel. So we got a little bit of cleaning up to do here. So first, so this is better. We can see everything's here. This does get a little bit noisy, and there's two solutions. One is we can trim this down if you want to. You can trim this blue down. Say you only wanted a year, and so to make it a little bit less noisy. Is that a year? Let's see. No, you can even go down a little bit further. Say you only wanted a year, then you can do it that way. Another one is you can bundle things. Like, for example, if you wanted to do, say, Angie, you could do it as in Yelp. You could do it as, like, say, online ads. But then you still want to get granular, because what you can see right off the bat for January is the purple here is Google. So 35% of your revenue is coming from Google for the month of January 26th, which isn't necessarily too concerning, but it's still a little bit of risk, right? You have sort of concentration risk in one lead source. So say it was like Facebook that recently changed their algorithm, their advertising algorithm of and they changed it. It's called Andromeda. So like say your lead costs go way up, because again, this is revenue. If you want to find the better picture, it's what is your cost to acquire a customer by lead source, and then compare that to your profit, because then you can see if you're actually making money, and then that'll be covered in other videos. So the one thing I want to do is I want to remove the 120. I want 100% to be the max. So I'm going to double click here, and then I'm going to go here to the little 3 columns, and then you can see 1.2, and I'll just make it 1. And then I want to fix this line. So if you click on that in the little paint bucket, you can change the colors, to whatever you want. Black compared to what, and then maybe make it 4. And then I want to show the values, but only for the line. So if you click in the chart and you click here, and then you have data labels, you can see it's like pretty noisy. But if I want just the line, then I click on the line and do data, not data table, data labels. Nah, that didn't work. When I click data table, it unselected that. So data labels. And then the final thing to do is we can click on the box. You can see all the boxes are sort of selected, and then you can put a background on there, so it'll show a lot cleaner. But anyways, that is how you can calculate your booked revenue by channel percent, break it down by month. And so if you have any questions, as always, just shoot me an email, questions@databoards.io. If you need some help, creating this type of, these types of data sets, you can do it in Service Titan. You can do it in a lot of softwares. It's just using custom fields. But if you need some help doing it, then you can, just let me know with that one as well. But also, if you don't, if you're not using those softwares, if you're getting, what is this? If you're getting, 12 leads a day, it's like you can have somebody manually enter in this data. It's not, it's not too time consuming if it's just, 10 to 12 leads a day. But yeah, so with that being said, if you do want some help creating this, there's a link to hop on my calendar, or you can just shoot me an email. But if not, then I will see you in future videos.